Good afternoon, and welcome to From Where We Are, stories of news and culture through the lens of USC and Southern California. I'm Jameela Hammond, coming to you live from Studio B and USC's Annenberg Media Center.
And I'm Colby Martin. It's Thursday, March 3rd, 2022. On today's show,
a state bill that would expand access to abortion.
A Ukrainian's patriotic actions in the midst of a Russian invasion.
I thought I'd be really nervous, but I'm actually more proud of myself going.
And discussion with a USC scholar working to develop a Haitian library.
All that and more, but first, these news headlines.
From Annenberg Media, I'm Sam Tarlov. Peace talks between Russia and Ukraine have once again failed to end in a ceasefire. This was the second round of talks in 4 days. However, Russia has agreed with Ukraine to create safe corridors for civilians to evacuate. Among the other countries who have had talks with Russian leader Vladimir Putin, French President Emmanuel Macron said that he fears the worst is yet to come. The January 6th committee has subpoenaed Kimberly Guilfoyle, the former campaign aide for Donald Trump and the fiancée of Donald Trump Jr., for her involvement in the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol. The House Select Committee stated that Guilfoyle helped organize the rally that took place before the riot. Today in Louisville, Brett Hankinson, the sole police officer charged for his role in the March 2020 killing of Breonna Taylor, was found not guilty on the charge of wanton endangerment after firing bullets into the home of Taylor's neighbors during the failed raid. LA County is set to lift its indoor mask mandate tomorrow. The new health order will affect restaurants, stores, gyms, and other indoor spaces. Businesses will have the choice to enforce mask wearing or not. The news comes after the CDC's announcement that LA County has exited the high coronavirus community level. Those are some of today's news headlines.
As war rages in Ukraine, we hope to bring you stories from people on the ground there, what they are going through and how they are reacting. On day 2 of the war, we reached Sviatek Artemenko in western Ukraine. Artemenko was born in Ukraine but has a Canadian passport, so he could have left the country. But a few hours after he spoke with us, he was on his way to the Ukrainian city of Odessa to enlist in the military to help protect his homeland. Wilco Martinez-Cachero reports.
Today, President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine and a few men in his cabinet showed their bravery. They took to the streets to rally people against the Russian invaders. The men looked stern and concerned, tired, resolute, and defiant. Zelensky looks straight into the camera and says directly to his people, "Good evening, everyone. The leader of the party is here. The head of the presidential administration is here. Prime Minister Shmyhal is here. Podolyak is here. The president is here. We are all here. Our soldiers are here. The citizens of the country are here. We are all here protecting our independence, our country, and we are going to continue to do so. Glory to the defenders of Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine." Sviatek Artemenko was born in Ukraine and raised in Canada. We talked to him in his apartment in Khmelnytsky, western Ukraine. Artemenko is a professional soccer player who went to Ukraine on trial in search of a team. He succeeded. But one day after signing his contract, war broke out.
Well, I can't say I'm 100% calm right now, but I am not as nervous as I thought I would be. Go back 2 years, and I was thinking about myself being in this situation. I thought I'd be really nervous, but I'm actually more proud of myself going rather than being nervous, because I'm here to protect my homeland, my home country, and my family that's living in Ukraine at the moment, and all the people, and fighting for its liberty and freedom. I'm going to Odessa within a couple hours right now. In Odessa, I'm going to be enlisting in the military. I've always had the patriotism for my country, but currently I'm not forced to be in the military here in Ukraine, but it is a personal choice, as I was born here, and I do have all my family members here that are enlisting in the military, so I think it's a right personal choice for me to enlist myself instead of running away. Well, I do have my family members. I will not be naming names at the moment for their own safety, but they are enlisting right now too in Odessa as well. So this is why I also decided to go to Odessa. Well, yeah, obviously Ukraine is lacking a bit of military manpower. Even though when I went to the military base here to sign up, there were lineups. You could have been waiting in line for as long as 2 hours. What I think the main thing is that we are missing is preparation. At the moment, yes, I do think that the EU and the NATO should be aware and should start sending in military manpower to Ukraine, as this is all seeming like it's going to lead to World War III. So the whole world should be preparing for this, because you never know with Putin. At first, he said he's bringing in military manpower into Ukraine just to save the Russians. And now all of a sudden he wants to take over the whole country. So you really never know what he's up to.
As silver states in the U.S. increase restrictions on abortion, a new bill in California proposes to expand access. Mendy Kong has the story.
California President pro tempore Tony Atkins recently introduced a bill in the California Senate which would allow qualified nurse practitioners in California to perform first trimester abortions without doctor's supervision. The bill is part of two movements in California politics, increasing the autonomy of nurse practitioners and making the state a sanctuary for abortion. The new bill is an expansion of a 2013 bill that allowed nurses to perform first trimester abortions with physician supervision, and a 2020 bill that allowed nurse practitioners to practice independently of a physician. The new bill specifies what procedures practitioners could perform. USC professor Cynthia Sanchez is a women's health expert and former nurse practitioner. She says that the new bill provides guidelines for who's qualified to practice independently and which procedures nurse practitioners can perform.
Kind of clear up who becomes those nurse practitioners who can practice independently, but it would also give them the authority to do those early abortions.
She also explains there is precedent for this bill.
I believe it's like 23 states and several districts in the United States that have full practice authority already. So we would be joining them in increasing access to high quality care for the public.
Nurse practitioners are required to have an advanced degree and more clinical hours than a registered nurse. The bill will lower the requirements for them to work independently, setting the requirement to 3 years of full-time work. Andrew Acosta is the spokesperson for the California Association for Nurse Practitioners. He explains that nurse practitioners have been performing supervised abortions in California since 2013.
So there are currently nurse practitioners who are performing abortions. This bill would just extend the powers of 890 to allow them to do what they do today independently.
The California Medical Association, a doctors' lobbyist group, has fought against previous moves to provide nurses with autonomy, but has yet to make comment on this bill. With the current conservative majority Supreme Court, the possibility of overturning Roe v. Wade and increasingly restrictive abortion laws emerging in conservative states, California Democrats are striving to make abortion accessible for Californians and to make the state a sanctuary for non-Californians as well. Andrew Acosta of the California Association for Nurse Practitioners speaks to how this change will better utilize medical professionals to provide more access in the state.
Well, the positive outcomes is, it provides greater access to health care, which is critically important to Californians, throughout California, rural communities, inner city communities. And that's really what nurse practitioners are there to provide. They're trained, they're ready to do this, and we should allow them to do what they're trained to do.
The state Senate will vote on the bill later this year, and if it passes, Governor Newsom is expected to sign it into law. For Annenberg Media, I'm Mendy Kong.
Bernice Silverin, a USC Marshall student, was awarded a UK Marshall Scholarship to develop the first ever library dedicated to Haitian Studies. Out of nearly 1,000 applicants, she was one of just 41 recipients this year for the prestigious scholarship, which includes Supreme Court justices and Pulitzer Prize winners among its previous awardees. Bernice, thank you for joining us, and a sac passe!
Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us.
So, Bernice, what does it mean for you to be a part of this prestigious group, to create your passion, which is to build a library dedicated to Haitian studies?
Well, for me, what this means is, I'm basically a vehicle for the change that I would like to see in Haiti. And this is the next step for me, being a Marshall Scholar, which will allow me to study Latin American studies and comparative social policy. And at the moment, there is so much that is needed in Haiti in terms of how the government is structured, how things are run. And so, honestly, this is just me trying to be that voice for the Haitian people and for the country.
Absolutely. And that's incredible, and this is incredible work that you're doing. But for folks to get a true grasp of this passion that you have, and being half Haitian, this is incredible, by the way. But how did you discover that Haitian studies and literature were your niche?
I think it all started out with my mother, honestly, since I was a little girl. My love for Haiti. I was born there, but I left at a young age. And then once I started to really delve into my studies, first as a comparative literature major, then I realized exactly what I wanted to do. And I had people who guided me towards that choice, especially, the mentors that I worked with at Columbia when I was there for my undergrad. And I just knew it. You just feel it in your heart and in your bones when something is meant for you. When I started to just read the literature and the history and trying to understand the diplomacy and the bureaucracy of Haiti, then I knew for myself that this was what I needed to do, was to be a part of this movement and this need for change and advocacy.
It's really quite amazing to see what you have done with this movement and how much you are actually progressing it and what you stand for with it. Now, going back to your mother, I know that she had a pivotal role in your life up until she unfortunately passed away when you were 17. In what ways have you kept your mother's spirit alive, and how has she inspired you towards the actions and the goals you have and still intend to take?
Yes. Well, I think the first step in keeping my mother's spirit alive is by talking about her and sharing what she has done for me, in terms of inspiring me to be the woman I am today and to have the type of love that I have for literature and just Haiti, our country, our nation, which is what I like to say. And so I think with everything that I've done in my life thus far has been the way she's influenced me. I sometimes I have people who say, well, you are her legacy, right? She wasn't finished. She died at a young age and she wasn't finished. And so I'm her continuation. And by doing these projects, by working towards, creating this library think tank, that is her living on through me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There were new things that I learned, about Haiti just in the article written, like the legal documents from when Haiti was first established as a country, that are in England. What was the most surprising thing that you learned about Haiti?
Well, I would say, so when I had first learned that some of the documents were in England, independence papers and so forth, it was actually discovered by Duke University students. And I was in shock. And especially learning the relationship that Haiti had with England during the early 19th century was even more amazing to me. I think a lot of people think of Haiti as having a relationship to France, France being the colonizer, but a lot of people don't realize that Haiti had actually a very strong relationship with England, especially before the war and after the war.
Bernice Silveran is a USC Marshall student who was awarded a Marshall Scholarship to develop the first ever library dedicated to Haitian studies. Bernice, thank you so much for talking with us today. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
And that's all we have time for.
I'm Colby Martin.
And I'm Jameela Hammond.
And that's From Where We Are.